I would just like to take a moment to introduce our first presenters. They completed the Southern Africa social media study. Unfortunately, one of our presenters, Linda Daniels, has fallen ill and she is unable to join us today. And we do wish her a speedy recovery. However, I would still like to read you Linda's bio so you can get to know her as part of the team behind the study. So Linda Daniels is a journalist, a communication specialist, and a trainer with extensive experience in media and communications reporting. She has worked extensively with youth and those involved in popular education, helping them develop media skills as community reporters. Linda is committed to amplifying underrepresented voices and has designed and facilitated training programs to empower individuals to tell their own stories. Currently, she serves as communication manager in the development sector, leading storytelling and strategic messaging to support social change initiatives. Now, I'd like to introduce our presenter of today, Anna Weeks. Anna is a journalist and a media activist with 30 years of experience in popular education and worker education. She's currently working as an editor for a science communication website and as a teaching program coordinator at the Saul Plaatje Institute at the university now known as Rhodes. And with that, I hand over to Anna, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Let me share my screen with you, and then we'll get started. And can everybody see that? Okay, great. So I'm going to present the Southern Africa study. We looked at South Africa, Malawi, and Mozambique. As David has pointed out, there wasn't much research out there, so we focused on asking organizations how they are using social media currently. And this is one of the comments. It's still in its infancy, but people are really thinking through how it could be used, and especially how it could be used as a co-creative tool. And more about that just now. Okay, who we surveyed? 16 people involved in adult education from Mozambique, Malawi, and South Africa. They work at a wide variety of organizations, non-profit organizations, human rights, film festivals, adult education institutes, universities that are doing adult education, and they've all got some experience in online education, but mostly in in-person education. We also interviewed 3 social media experts. I will just call up my notes. So what the participants told us, we asked them, we wanted to find out whether they use social media currently in delivering adult learning and education, what they use it for, how they use it, and how likely they are as educators to actually recommend to their fellow educators and learners to use social media and ALE. We found that most educators are using WhatsApp, as you can see here, 85.7%. There are about 49% using YouTube and 28% using Facebook. And less than half of the participants use it every day. So what we found was that the educators who do not use social media much only actually tend to use it to communicate with learners and not for actual teaching. So that's an important finding because it shows what still needs to be done. And I'll talk a bit more about that just now. So WhatsApp is obviously preferred in Southern Africa because it uses less data and documents and videos can be easily shared. The feeling is among people who use Facebook that it also can be very cost effective. Some educators are only actually using social media to find nearby in-person adult education centers and refer learners there. And the challenges, of course, high cost of data is the biggest problem. People cannot afford to buy data. There's not very much access to Wi-Fi, so data is necessary. Technical issues are the other challenge. learners do not have, not enough learners have smartphones, and there's difficulties in sending very large files. Okay, I'm just going to try to move to the next slide. So, how social media supports adult learning and education. We had a lot of very rich feedback on this question. So it allows for multimodal educational content. It is suitable in low data and low income contexts, and it improves accessibility and inclusivity, and it enhances multilingualism. So in terms of making learning more accessible, what our educators have started doing is experimenting with social media tech that allows for simultaneous translation, so that a course can be held in a number of different languages. In terms of making ALE more accessible, the educators we interviewed pointed out that it allows for more learning sessions to be held in one day, and for them to schedule sessions at different times of day that wouldn't be possible for people to meet in person. So, for example, they said they could teach a class at lunchtime, and people can participate in their lunch break, but they wouldn't necessarily have the time to make it all the way to an adult education center and back to work in lunch. They found that they also work with learners to find the best times of the day for educating. They found that having courses online broadens the pool of learners out, because learners tend to share the information with family and friends. And they also found that it allows learners to deepen their learning, because they can set up discussion groups within a class on specific topics and have more intense discussion, and do this from home and not have to come to an adult education center for, say, a second class. So what we found was to engage learners. Educators are, of course, using videos and voice notes on WhatsApp, but they're also using additional things such as polls, and they're starting to develop whole processes of teaching. So one educator said she engaged students by developing a process where she asked the learners to react with emojis at certain points in the lesson, and to send voice notes in at other times, and to type comments on the WhatsApp group, but to do this in a specific order so that the lesson didn't become chaotic, but it became very interactive but orderly at the same time. And so obviously this
Can I just interrupt you for a second, please? It seems, I don't know if it's just me, but the left side of the screen is showing as white. There we go. That's improved it.
Oh,
Yeah.
was it showing my notes?
It was just showing as white. Yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's cleared up now. Sorry to interrupt you. Thank you.
And now is it showing it? Oh, it's stopped
Now
sharing.
it's good. It's okay, everybody? Yeah?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, and then another finding is something that we picked up in the literature, which is that using social media also helps learners who would otherwise be very shy to speak up in class. And in fact, specifically, it helps them engage more with the educator around learning material. So if they would feel too shy to approach the educator and ask a question about the material, they feel much more confident to do that over a private message. Next slide. So we know everybody who uses WhatsApp uses it, of course, to forward interesting things that they receive and to advertise times and events. But we wanted to find out specifically what WhatsApp is used for in terms of teaching and educating. So these are the things that our participants identified. It's used to advertise courses. It's used for learners to upload assignments and for educators to moderate them, to share recorded lessons, homework, and reading, to create discussion groups that can discuss topics outside of the lesson, generally for staying connected. It can also be used for giving feedback after an in-person training, and as part of a hybrid model of remote and in-person training. And this is mainly starting to happen in the post-COVID era, where training happened online. And it was found, obviously, also to save a lot of costs, especially in organizations that don't have big budgets and want to continue training, even if they don't have the funds to bring everyone together. Participants also, sorry, I'll just go back up to this one. On this point, the participants also indicated a number of very interesting uses. The participants in our study, of course, were educators. So they said that they will use it, they use WhatsApp to cross live to experts in the field who can then also teach the class via video. So for example, there was one educator who works in adult education in agriculture who crossed live to practitioners in the field who then gave a speech about, I think it was macadamia nuts, while they were showing the nut plants. So this was very, very interesting for the learners. And then another participant said, for example, they went to a meeting between a fishing community and the government, and they live streamed the meeting to the learners. And then they had a process whereby the learners would ask questions, type comments, and interact. And then that became a very, very valuable lesson with a kind of live experiential training for the learners. And the other reason why WhatsApp is preferred is that the educator said in Southern Africa, Zoom and Microsoft Teams are not really available to everybody, but WhatsApp video calls are widely available. So onto the challenges. Of course, poor connectivity, no Wi-Fi, funds are needed for Wi-Fi and data. Educator resistance to innovation. This is more about educators not actually having the tools to start setting up all their content so that it can be delivered by social media. They're keen on the social media itself, but lack the knowledge about how to convert their courses to digital. Alienation can result if everything is online and nobody ever meets in person. So all our participants said they only recommend hybrid online and in-person education, not for courses to shift entirely online. Then people cited the potential of miscommunication and poor behavior on WhatsApp, arguments breaking out and so on. And then we looked a lot at co-creation because the international literature has really pointed to the fact that educators can draw learners in and get them to co-create courses. So what we found in Southern Africa is that's still very informal. I mean, you may have a learner who says to an educator, here's an interesting video, or something like that, but it's very informal. There isn't a formalized process for that to happen. Okay. And then there were some privacy and ethical concerns raised. These are around, these were mainly raised around issues where people felt that if learners are receiving an ALE program on their phones, they need to have secure phones so that people don't hack into their bank accounts via the program. That's a bit outside of my expertise. I don't know how that happens, but there were those kind of security concerns. And then there were concerns about learners screenshotting messages and forwarding them to people outside of the group. And then the other concern was that there would need to be some guidelines so that learners don't try and engage with each other and with the educator, all night long. So that would need to be a bit structured to create a safe online environment. But by and large, the educators felt that those issues could all be solved just through a simple document, a clear guideline and a code of conduct. and by having the role of the, administrators of the WhatsApp group set out. So what our participants ultimately recommended was a kind of a teaching template that could be adapted for different social media platforms. Something technical, kind of like a content management system, where educators could feed material into it, and where they could also get ideas from learners and feed those in. So it becomes a participatory approach. So our participants emphasized that there would need to be flexibility, but at the same time, structure. Because ideally, you would want to co-create, since adult ALE could be moving in this direction, you'd want to use it as an opportunity to build in more co-creating from the bottom up, instead of designing something that's a new digital course that has to be, that's just imposed on learners. So it was felt that the main aim has to be that whatever course content you design for delivery on social media, it has to meet the needs of the target audience. And the participatory approach and the adaptable teaching template are two methods that could facilitate this. And this is something that tech people and adult educators could work on together and do some pilot runs, focus group testing. While this is happening and while this is being rolled out, the feeling was that there also needs to be a group of people who do research and development on new innovations and constantly feed this back to the people who are building these new digital media courses. Now, this is another very strong recommendation that came out. The educators believed, and we also agreed with them, that they still have a very, very important role. In fact, they will probably have more work to do in an online environment than in an in-person environment. So, they'll be needed to not only to continue teaching, but also to support the learners in beginning to learn online. They'll need to moderate everything that happens online, and they'll need to constantly guide the conversations. They'll also need to have some knowledge and experience or build this up in how to build, a good peer-to-peer community. Training of the trainers will be needed. Support for the multilingualism will be needed. And some protocols about what co-creative learning is, what peer-to-peer learning is. And there was a feeling that this will have to be accompanied by a campaign, at least in Southern Africa, for a zero-rated platform. Because otherwise you can have the best WhatsApp course in the world with beautiful videos, so much content, but if you're not able to reach the target audience purely because people don't have data, it will fall over. Otherwise, what many of the participants said was that their organizations do fund data and they don't find it very expensive. They give each learner a monthly amount of data. It's done by an administrator in the organization via a banking app, and it works out quite well. I think I'm nearly at the end. Yes. So the overall feeling was it's very important to start this process happening and to keep it moving forward and to constantly keep up with new innovations in social media. At the same time, we need to be very mindful that we are just moving into an era where we're using social media as a tool, and we're not educating for the purposes of showing that we're very technologically advanced only. Social media is a tool to enhance education. So, for example, what came through very strongly was that promoting learning through sharing lived experiences, that's always been a key part of adult education. And then social media needs to be used to advance that, not to replace it. So the task then is to figure out how to use social media to do this. So we also had a few words of caution from our participants that social media shouldn't be used to dumb content down or dumb learning down. It's not a shortcut. It shouldn't be a case of an educator playing a 40-second video and then saying to learners, well, now you've learned what there is to learn on the topic, for example. So in terms of new innovations, these are some of the recommendations that came out from the social media experts that my colleague Linda interviewed. More can be done with WhatsApp. People are already using chatbots in nonprofit organizations to answer questions and to provide feedback and to see what we can do with chatbots to provide learning. Courses can be delivered on Facebook, live broadcasts, and you can have closed groups so that you don't have people hacking in or writing irrelevant things. And maybe create standard online course platforms instead of retrofitting social media. So I'll just end with a statement from one of our participants. It's a simple statement, but it sums up everything. Social media is a very good way for students to be heard and validated. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, for the insightful presentation. I'm sure everyone is looking forward to reading the detailed report. But before we move on, I would just like to offer a 5-minute window for anyone who has questions that need clarification that is directly related to Anna's presentation. So this is not going to be a plenary discussion, which we will have at the end of both presentations, but rather just a brief opportunity for Anna to provide further clarity on any of the points made. Yeah, so you can type your questions in the chat, either English or French. And if anyone wants to come on screen, they can raise their hand and unmute.
Laurisha, if nobody has a specific question for Anna, we could just move on to Shoaib's, the next presentation, and then save the questions for both presenters until the end.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Alors,
Okay.
je vais parler en français. Merci beaucoup, Anna,
I'll
pour
speak
ton
in French.
intervention.
Thank you so much, Anna, for your
Nous passons
intervention.
maintenant à la deuxième
So
présentation
we will
qui
go
porte
to
sur
the second
l'utilisation des réseaux sociaux
presentation, which is the
dans
use of
l'apprentissage et
social
l'éducation des adultes
media
en
in
Afrique du Nord.
adult
Cette
learning
présentation
in Northern
cette
Africa.
étude sera
So
présentée
this
par Faraj
presentation,
Hadiji.
it will be
Et
Faraj
avant,
Hadiji
je
who's going
voudrais
to present
dire
it.
quelques mots sur Faraj.
Before that, I want to say
Est un
something.
expert en recherche par
Shushwai
méthode
is
mixte et en
an expert
communication,
in
spécialisé dans les
communication,
droits humains et l'éducation.
specialized in human
Il
rights
possède
and
une expérience
education. She has
internationale
an
et
international
ses domaines
experience
de spécialisation sont les méthodes mixtes, les
in
stratégies de
mixed
communication et
methods,
construction de marques,
communication
les
strategies,
collaborations interculturelles, les grandes causes
intercultural
humanitaires et
communication,
communautaires et le
in
développement durable.
humanitarian
Donc, il a débuté sa
intervention
carrière en
and
tant que
cultural. She
responsable
started
indépendant
her
du
career as
marketing
an
digital en Tunisie
independent
pour différentes organisations,
actor
avant
of
d'évoluer
digital of
vers le conseil en
digitalization,
communication et la
and
recherche pour
then
des
she was
organisations
a
internationales
counselor.
telles que Women Deliver, ONU
She
Femmes,
worked with
United
Women
States
Deliver,
Institute for Peace, Open Democracy
UN
et
Women,
l'Université
Open
Brown.
Democracy,
Il
and
travaille depuis plus de
others.
10 ans
So
sur
she
les
has been
questions
working for
liées aux
10 years
minorités, aux
in
groupes
issues
défavorisés et
linked
au
to
développement.
minorities
Voilà, c'est tout.
and
J'espère
also
que j'ai rien
deployment.
oublié.
So that's
Et puis
all.
voilà,
I
la
hope I
parole est
didn't
à toi,
finish.
Joël.
I didn't
Thank
forget
you,
anything.
Wimber, for the comprehensive introduction. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Extremely excited for this webinar and to be part of this. I'll just start sharing the presentation. Okay. Sorry. Okay, is it clear for everyone?
Thank
Yes,
you.
everything is clear. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, so our study was the use of social media in adult learning and education in North of Africa. Sorry. So the presentation, the outline will be, we'll start with a small introduction and context, talk about a little bit about the research questions and objectives, social media usage in LIE, some statistics, the key challenges and barriers, a couple of case studies that we found, and we also created a little bit of recommendation and suggested training modules, and some suggestions for research, for future research direction. Okay, so I think everyone here is very familiar with adult learning and education, and we know that it plays a crucial role in economic development and social inclusion, and also addresses a lot of literacy gaps and vocational training and skills development. So why do we talk about the use of social media in adult learning and education? As it expands accessibility for marginalized learners, enhances engagement and interaction, and provides flexibility for working adults and non-traditional learners. And also it enables micro-learning and continuous education through bite-sized content. In this study, we used mixed methods to provide a comprehensive analysis of social media use in adult learning and education. And this paper would be considered as an exploratory research, as this field is still developing and would require an open-ended investigative approach. And the goal of this study was to explore the trends, any obstacles and opportunities without any predefined assumptions or hypotheses. And it would allow us also to establish some foundational knowledge for any future in-depth studies and policy recommendations in Tunisia. And also it allows the identification of emerging patterns and needs for specific training modules, in Tunisia and also in other countries in North Africa. So for the analysis methods, we did quantitative analysis, we did a survey, and we had a structured survey with 17 adult learning and education practitioners to assess social media adoption, challenges, and best practices. And the questions that we designed would cover the platform usage, the engagement strategies, and the digital literacy needs. And then we did a descriptive analysis to understand what we were able to display through this survey. For qualitative analysis, we did thematic coding. We had 8 in-depth interviews with practitioners, and we did thematic coding to be able to extract some key themes related to the barriers, the opportunities, and the implementation strategies. And we have identified a couple of recurring issues, which are the digital literacy gaps, cultural resistance, and data privacy concerns. We also did content analysis for a couple of case studies in Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. And this allowed us to analyze how different platforms were utilized for remote learning and literacy training and vocational education in the different countries in North of Africa. And we did a triangulation approach. So we did cross-validation of the quantitative and qualitative findings to ensure our reliability, and also to ensure that there is a holistic understanding of the social media role in adult learning and education. The research questions that we started this paper with were: which social media platform are most commonly used? What are the major barriers to integrating social media in adult learning and education? What are the training capacity and the building needs of the practitioners? How can social media enhance learner engagement and accessibility? And what role do policy frameworks play in the social media adoption in adult learning and education? And our objectives were to identify the best practices, understand the challenges and opportunities, provide the recommendations for improving digital literacy and social media strategies, and also try to develop an action-oriented solutions that can be implemented by ALE organizations. For social media usage in adult learning and education, we found that the most used social media platform would be WhatsApp, and it's used for group discussion, instant communication, and resource sharing. Facebook by 65%, and we observed that it enables community building, discussions group, and resource sharing also. And YouTube, which is used for 40% for sharing instructional videos and tutorials. LinkedIn was used by 10%, and it supports the professional networking and adult learning education collaboration. Instagram was 15%, and it was less used, but it offers visual storytelling opportunities. And TikTok, while it is an emerging as an informal learning tool, it's not really that commonly used. A couple of challenges in adoption that we found through the study is that there is low digital literacy levels among the learners and also the educators, that there is limited infrastructure and internet connectivity, especially in rural areas, that there is some kind of a cultural resistance to using social media as for formal education that is used, seen as something for entertainment. And also that there are lack of policies or guidelines on how to, like regarding content moderation and credibility when sharing learning resources on social media platforms. These are the key challenges and barriers that we identify. 70% was that one of the themes was digital literacy gaps. So limited skills hinder online engagement, and structured programs sometimes create inconsistencies. And the solution that we suggest here is to train in platform-specific skills and critical thinking. Another challenge was the limited internet access. There is high data costs. They hinder this kind of participation, and there is poor connectivity of the network in rural areas. And we thought that would be a great solution for this is to advocate for some kind of subsidized digital access and develop offline learning resources. Cultural resistance, as we said, it is seen more as an entertainment, not an education tool. And older learners and educators are hesitant as they do not see it as a credible tool. And also there were a couple of privacy and security concerns. For the cultural resistance, we think that community-led digital literacy campaigns and showing some kind of success stories will allow them to limit and diminish this cultural resistance. And for the privacy and security concerns, integrating some kind of cybersecurity awareness training to understand how to have safe online learning. We picked also aside of the survey and the semi-structured interview, we also looked at the literature, and we picked up a couple of case studies. One of them was in Morocco, and it was a mosque-based literacy programs. It showed that WhatsApp and Facebook helps reach adult learning, especially women with limited mobility. And we saw that the lessons were either shared through voice messages, PDFs, and group discussions, and this enhanced the accessibility. And this had a huge impact with a greater literacy access, and there was higher engagement and improved literacy rates in rural areas. In Algeria, there was the case study of Iqra literacy program. We noticed that also Facebook and WhatsApp was used to expand learning resources access, especially in rural areas. There was also peer-to-peer model where the more advanced learners would also mentor and educate people who are not that advanced, the beginners. And this created stronger learning networks and also improved the literacy and the empowerment of the learners. In Tunisia, we picked the case study of Social and Solidarity Economy Initiative. And this initiative used C4D approaches to teach economic literacy and entrepreneurship via social media. We've noticed that Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups, they served as hubs for mentorship. They would share their experiences, their progress in project, if they need some kind of a resources, what kind of training they need. And we noticed that there's been an improved financial literacy, better business management, and stronger engagement when it comes to Tunisia's social and economic solidarity economy. So lessons that were learned with those case studies is that localized social media strategies enhance engagement and adoption. So it's very important to put the context first and see which tools are learners more open to. We also noticed that blended learning modules, when we combine social media, but also face-to-face interaction, it's highly effective and more effective. And also the community involvement, it is extremely important, and it makes the learning easier when there is some kind of a peer-led approaches, as it increases the trust and works as an example of a success story. For the other part, a couple of recommendations suggested training modules that we had. These were based on this, as it is an exploratory research, so we cannot go more in depth, but also as on the existing literature and parallel studies. First, that we need to strengthen the digital literacy program. So we have to develop tailored digital skills training for both learners and educators. We also have to kind of introduce a platform-specific training, so for Facebook or for WhatsApp on how to use TikTok. And also we have to ensure that this learning also has a section on it that focuses on privacy and also combating misinformation. Also, so that it is extremely important to promote culturally sensitive learning strategies. So as I said before, it needs to be really integrated in the context, in the social cultural context that the learners are in. And that would be more impactful if the community leaders would endorse those tools as an educational tool. Another key point that we would like to suggest is that to address infrastructure challenges is that there's some kind of, if we can advocate for some kind of subsidized or free internet access for educational purposes. I know that this is being implemented by other governments. Also develop offline friendly learning resources for low connectivity areas. For example, the content can be accessible offline. It can be downloaded as a low storage PDF file. And for the suggested training modules, essential skills for adult learning practitioners, so basics of online learning and content delivery, so it can be more engaging. That will lead me to my next point, is that we have to be engaging and to have to build that kind of interactivity. And also another module that was suggested is that we have to have a critical media literacy and fact checking. As we know, there is a lot of misinformation and a lot of content that can be inconsistent. Another point we thought is cybersecurity and data privacy. Is extremely important, as individual may share some kind of sensitive or identifying data. And also, as we noted before, it is extremely important to have a hybrid learning modules that that mix between the social media and the traditional learning methods. We also, for future research direction, it would be great if we have some longitudinal studies on digital literacy progression. Also to compare social media-driven adult learning education modules across different regions. With the advance of artificial intelligence and the tools, it would be great to investigate how can we make them adaptive and how we personalize them, and how can we personalize this for our learners and also for our educators, and also to study the impact of social media on employment income, social media based adult learning education and its employment outcomes. How does it help? What can be changed? As a conclusion, we've seen that social media is a very powerful tool for adult learning education, but it requires adaptation. Literacy, digital literacy infrastructures are extremely critical to improve adult learning education, and that future research should explore how can artificial intelligence advance this, and also we need a policy-based solution to have a sustainable adult learning education integration. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Chouaib.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Merci. Donc, je tiens aussi
Thank
à
you.
souligner que j'ai suivi
I would
le
like
déroulement
to
de
say
ces
that
projets
I
proposés par
followed
Chouaib et je souhaite
this
vraiment
study
saluer
alongside
le
Shab. I would like
professionnalisme
to
de l'Agence de
salute
communication et
the
handicap,
professionalism of the
pour la qualité du
communication
travail
agency
rendu.
for the
Merci
quality of
beaucoup.
the
Merci,
job
Hamza,
which
de
was
cette
done. Thank you very
présentation,
much.
justement. Merci de
Thanks to everyone. Thanks to the entire team.
Voilà, donc chers participants,
So,
je
dear
vous invite
participants,
maintenant à
I'm
poser vos
now
questions.
inviting you to
Vous
ask your
pouvez les écrire
questions.
sur le chat,
You can write
marquer
them on the
juste
chat,
lever la main sur
or you can
Zoom
just
et je
raise
vous
your
donnerai la
hand in
parole.
Zoom
D'accord?
and I will give you the
Donc,
floor.
prendre le temps de
We'll
discuter
take
toutes les questions
time to
ensemble.
engage together on the questions.
Hello, thank you so much for the presentation. Hello?
Oui. Est-ce que vous pouvez lever la main, s'il vous plaît, que je
Can
puisse vous
you
voir
raise your hand, please, so that I can
sur
see
Zoom?
you?
Je ne
May
vois
you
pas.
please raise your hand so I can see you?
Donc, c'est... vous pouvez vous présenter, s'il vous plaît?
Can you introduce
Yes,
yourself,
thank you very
please?
much for the presentation. And I'm from Uganda here, and I appreciate, and I'm taking the opportunity that it's one of my course in adult learning and education. It has been a very good excitement in terms of social media, and that has been carried out, and I'm just seeing it so perfect, and I would love to really engage myself in that social media research as my dissertation. It has been so insightful, and I would think that according to the presenter, that copy, it has been so insightful that it can be, I wish I got an opportunity of getting it and I do a citation on it to help me do a right presentation or a viva in accomplishing my course. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So you don't have a question?
No question, just present. I was appreciating the presenter.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please. But my thing is that I just need a copy for citation when doing my vivo. Copy for citation.
Ok, donc on passe à la prochaine personne qui a une question.
Now
ou
we're
qui
going
veut
to the next
écrire quelque
person who's
chose sur le
got
chat.
a question. Would like to drop a question in the chat box.
Anna et Chouaib sont là pour répondre à vos questions.
Anna and Shrabs are here to attend to your questions.
There's a question in the chat about the duration of the study.
Okay, so can you answer, please, Anna?
For us, the duration was just 3 months.
Okay. And for you, Shuaib?
I believe it took us a month and a half.
Okay.
A month and a half, yeah.
I have a question. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
It could be to both of you, but maybe both of you can answer in turn. I remember when the study was taking place, as I mentioned in the introduction, we found few organizations, maybe fewer than we expected, who were really using ALE for their work. Maybe you could speak a little bit about that, the difficulty of, or the experience of trying to find organizations. Who wants to go first?
Shoaib, you can go first if you want.
Yeah, of course. I think there is some kind of I think because social media is looked at as an informal tool, it's not looked at as an educational tool, that there is some kind of a resistance towards it. But also individuals that are using these tools, they sometimes come with a projection. So I always believe that you have to check what kind of tools are the learners already using, and you have to adapt to that. I think that's one of the main thing. And also there is some kind of a couple of barriers also, because of with data being expensive, with the low connectivity in some areas. And also I think another reason for that is social media can be a little bit time consuming. So I think that being always connected and people posing questions may present another burden for educators. I think it would be great to show, even, for example, for the case study that presented in my research, how impactful it can be. We've seen it in Morocco and Algeria. Showing that how impactful it is can convince educators to adapt it more, can convince organizations to use social media more. And also, I think some kind of a basic skills training regarding the usage and regarding of content creation would make it more adaptive to them. Yeah.
I think our findings in Southern Africa were very similar in terms of the fact that many of the adult educators will only use it for communication. So they've kind of replaced phone calls, letters, SMSs with WhatsApp messages, but they do innovate all the time. And this was something that came up in our interviews. For example, the group that said they cross live to experts in the field. I said to them, that's an amazing innovation, an amazing way to bring guest lecturers into your teaching and to enhance the learner's experience. But what we noticed is that the educators do not keep track of all their own innovations. So these are very impromptu, very informal. They're based on having, good ideas from time to time, maybe their own good ideas, or maybe in discussion with fellow educators, they have an idea. So that's why the research was useful, because we got to track everything that they're doing and put it into one place. And that's another reason why the participants also talked about having a kind of a learning portal or a template where you can gather all these examples of how people are using social media in ALE, and have people work with that and see how to formalize it, because that will benefit the learners as well. With the learners, currently they may get an educator who is very innovative on social media, who does a lot of very exciting things, or they may not. So it's kind of hit and miss and ad hoc. So, and that is, as Shoaib was saying, some of the educators just don't have the confidence to convert all of their material into an online platform. And not everybody is aware of each and every tool that exists. say, a live broadcast in a Facebook closed group. Not everybody's aware that they have that possibility. So that's where the issue of building the template or the portal came through quite strongly. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Umaima, I see there's a comment from Maha in the
Okay.
button. But it's in French, and it's my bad French. I won't try.
Yeah, I will read it. So, pour les personnes qui veulent avoir les
For
envoyer les
people
présentations. Donc, pour la
who would
question
like
de
to
Madame
send
Louis,
presentations for the question from Malawi. I'm sorry, she's breaking. She's frozen.
I think Umaima has frozen. Maha, are you with us? Or it's Meha or Maha? I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong. Meha, maybe you'd like to make your comment or your question to the group, and then maybe the presenters would comment on it.
Oui, donc mon intervention. Donc d'abord, je voudrais remercier les intervenants.
First and foremost, I would like to thank the presenters.
Donc, il est clair que le besoin de formation
It's clear
hybride est
that
nécessaire.
the needs of hybrid training is there,
Donc,
but these are
qu'est-ce qu'il faut
informal
faire pour y
tools.
remédier?
What should we do in order to correct things?
Autre question, est-ce que vous auriez
Another
dans vos deux
question,
études
in your
le
two
pourcentage des
studies,
personnes
do you have the
qui sont
percentage of
connectées?
people who are
Donc,
connected?
parce que je suppose qu'il doit,
I
y avoir des
suppose
différences.
there
Donc,
should be
entre les
differences
différents pays, mais
between
aussi au
different
sein du même
countries
pays,
and
entre
also within a
entre
country
le rural
and between
et
rural
et donc et la ville.
and urban
Autre
areas.
chose,
Other
des
thing,
garde-fous sont nécessaires pour une utilisation
maybe we
safe,
need safeguards
surtout
in
maintenant
order
avec
to make sure
l'IA
that
où
things are
tout
safe,
est
especially now
possible
with
avec l'IA.
AI, everything is
Donc, qu'est-ce que vous en
possible.
pensez? Et merci.
So what is your take on that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like me to go first?
Please.
Okay. So because we had the study with the practitioners, most of them they mentioned that most people are connected, regardless of their area. Their issues were more about there are some issues with the connectivity with the networks, and also the high cost of data in Tunisia. When it comes to the safe use of artificial intelligence, honestly, it is still an emerging topic, and if you're following what's happening now, even the big players in this, they have their own concerns regarding the ethical dilemmas that may come with artificial intelligence. I think extremely important when it comes to artificial intelligence is that some basic safety that I would share is that always use a VPN. There are free VPNs, you can use them, but also never share your own identifiers with anyone. The social media, artificial intelligence never should, never, even when you're using it for work, never use any kind of identifiers. I mentioned this, especially the artificial intelligence, because unfortunately, even through our study, we did not see. I'm sorry, can you, okay, thank you. So when it comes to artificial intelligence, from what we observed through the study is that it wasn't mentioned that much. And it's really kind of unfortunate because it has a huge potential on making it more accessible and easier to individuals. Yes, because I expected some kind of educators talking about maybe adapting and trying to see if there is a way to deliver the educational material or to make it easier. So yeah, so that's one of the things. Okay, is it about the use and to be? Okay, I think that was the question. I don't know if there is any other. No, I think that's it. I am answered that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Shuaib. Anna, do you want to say something else?
Is it about the use of AI? I didn't turn my translator on.
Yeah.
Well, I think what participants mentioned is that the role of the educator is still very important. They are distrustful of AI-generated course content because the accuracy needs to be checked. And also they feel that participants, because adult education involves so much learning from each other and learning from lived experiences, they believe at this point that there isn't a big role for AI. And I think, as Shuaib was hinting at, people have not got to the stage where they're interrogating the use of AI in this. They're still, kind of grappling with how to use the tech to deliver adult education. And AI will come later, but I think that's something that should be considered now when setting up these learning templates. What role will AI play? I mean, even in terms of student assignments, how much are they allowed to use AI in producing their assignments and so on? So it's definitely would be better for Moja to stay ahead of that, rather than working on the technical platform now and then thinking of looking at all the aspects of AI use later.
I just would like to, mention as Anna was talking about this, is that I highlighted this in the study for future recommendation because, right now, even with the existing tools of artificial intelligence, you don't have to type, you can just send voice notes. And I think if we find some kind of way of module training on how to empower learners to use it, it would be great, because then it can be like a self-learning, and then it will not just stop at the basic skills learning, but it will advance and allow them to have like a lifelong learning and be able to empower themselves and be self-reliant. So yeah.
Should I say something? Hello? Yes, hello. This is Swapa from Uganda still.
Yeah, hi, Swapa. Now,
I joined this thing late, but I want to really ask a question because I'm a student of adult learning. I'm a student of community development and lifelong learning. That is Chambogo University, and I'm mastering, and that's my area of mastery, community development and lifelong learning. Now, actually, it will just help me because I joined the platform late. I just want to ask a simple question. Since this thing, it entails educators and learners, that is the community as per se. My question is, what were the key findings of your research on the impact of social media on adult learning and education? And how do they contribute to improving lifelong learning programs, like in my community here? I just want to see the key findings on the impact of social media on adult learning and education, and how they contribute to lifelong learning processes or programs upon their study. Am I clear? Thank you.
So who wants to answer this question?
I can quickly state our key findings if you want. I mean, we found that social media does support the delivery of ALE because it allows for this multimodal educational content, which is highly visual, and that stimulates and enhances learning. And we found that if data is provided, and depending on whether there could be a campaign for a data-free platform, it actually extends adult learning in low-income contexts, and it increases the accessibility and inclusivity of the learning opportunities because more people can participate at different times of the day. And because it enhances multilingualism, that also broadens the base of learners that it can reach out to. Thanks.
Yeah, I wouldn't add much. I think what Anna said is also applies on our study. However, just like to say that it's an exploratory research, so these are mostly observations, and we noticed that it enhances adult learning education because it allows for sharing of information, peer-to-peer learning, and it allows individuals who may be busy and don't really have the time to sit in a classroom or to have a formal training. It makes it more accessible. Okay, I see there's another question. Sorry. Yeah.
There's a question in the chat again about access to smartphones and data. And I think, Noreen, it's very important. I mean, actually, the Mozambican participants in our study said that even if they have data, at times the government will cut off the internet. Then they won't be able to learn. So all these things need to be taken into account. But in that regard, what we found was most successful was the organizations who were providing data to learners every month so that they would have enough to participate.
So Noreen, I think that's that's very important. It is an issue that we have. I think as I mentioned that there should be some kind of a training on how to use on how to have even having the basic skills, the basic digital skills, but also always to not come with the tools by yourself, but observe what's your, I would say, target group uses on a daily basis. And because because not everyone has access to equipped classroom or the internet or smartphone, we recommended some kind of a subsidized provide them with some kind of a subsidized programs that would allow them to have a phone, even a basic one, or to have access to the internet. This has been the case, and it's been some of the government's policies, not in Tunisia, but in other countries. We're providing some kind of a basic laptop or phone, and with low-cost internet access or free internet, and it tremendously increased the engagement of the learners and also their the learning outcomes. So that would be some kind of a solution for that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Shuaib and Anna. Est-ce qu'il y a une autre question?
Do we have any other question?
Not a question, but sorry, I would just like to add one point for Noreen. I think, Noreen, it's when you're talking about, because there is another part in your question regarding the educator resistance errors. I know, unfortunately, we do live in a very capitalist society, so evidence-based advocacy is extremely important. Okay, so if we want to advocate for the importance, we have to go back even in Tunisia, for example, back in the time where there were ads for adult learning and how it is impactful even for families, you know, and how it is very this emotional engagement, how, you know, your grandmother can read your test scores and your certificates. So there was this kind of so that's the message that should be put out there. The moment that individuals and organizations understand how critical and important it is, and that there is this huge potential individual that is not being, you know, used. It's you know, I've through the semi-structured interview, we found that this, you know, the use of social media, for example, allowed a lot of women in rural areas, you know, and elders who, for example, do some kind of traditional art crafts, or they do some artistry in-house products. The learning on how to use Facebook and how to post in groups allow them to generate an income. So this should be highlighted, and this should be highlighted. I think
Sur WhatsApp, c'est-à-dire ton portable.
sorry. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, so if we're putting that to the front, showing how that there is this huge potential for these individuals, and, you know, stressing the importance of learning. You know, learning is a right, it's a fundamental human right for everyone, and it's kind of unfortunate that adult learning sometimes is not taken that seriously. Yeah.
Ok, merci beaucoup, Chouaib.
Thank you so
Donc,
much, Shaib.
je vais vous présenter Moja.
I'm going to introduce to you Monja. For those who do not know Monja platform,
Attendez-moi, je vais juste
just a
afficher mon
minute.
écran.
I'm going to share my screen.
Est-ce que vous voyez la présentation?
Can you see my presentation?
Ok, très bien.
Good.
Alors, pour ceux qui ne connaissent pas
So,
Moja,
for
Moja
those
est
who do
une
not know
plateforme
Moja,
en ligne
Moja
pour
is an
professionnels
online
qui
platform
semble
for
l'exécution des actes
professional and
dans le secteur
practitioner
public, le
for
secteur
adults and
privé, la
education of
société
adults
civile, le
in
milieu
public,
universitaire en Afrique.
private
C'est un lieu de création
sector in
de
Africa.
liens, de
It's
partage de petits
a
trucs
place for the
de
creation of
contenu.
sharing of content.
Moja a plusieurs
And Moja
avantages.
has
Ainsi,
many
vous aurez
advantages.
faire
If
partie de
you
cette
want
communauté,
to
vous
be
aurez l'accès
a
à des
member of this
informations
community,
sur
you'll
l'apprentissage
access
et l'éducation
information
des
on
adultes en Afrique. Vous
learning
aurez
of adults in
aussi
Africa. You will also have
des profils d'organisation d'apprentissage
the profiles of
d'éducation des adultes
organization
en Afrique.
in
Vous aurez un aperçu sur tous
adult
les
learning
événements qui
and
se passent
educations,
en
and you will
ligne
get to know about
ou
what is happening online
sur place dans
or
différents pays de l'Afrique. Y compris des événements,
what is happening in
événements
Africa,
et des
including
webinaires comme celui d'aujourd'hui.
webinars,
Il y a aussi
events
des
such as the one that we have today.
interactives
We
qui
also
permettent
have
et
interactive
encouragent la
functionalities
discussion, le partage et
that
la
can encourage
collaboration.
discussion,
Vous y
sharing,
trouverez
and
aussi des
collaboration.
expériences
You
et
also
des
find
pratiques prometteuses de toute
experience
l'Afrique.
and
Et c'est
practices
pour
from
nous
around
un lieu
Africa,
où
which
vous
are
pouvez apporter votre propre
promising,
expérience
and you
pour
can share your
donner des
own
informations
experience
pour
and
créer
get
des synergies entre
information in order to
Donc,
establish
si vous
a
voulez
synergy between
accéder
professionals.
directement à
And
la
if you want to
plateforme, vous pouvez
access
scanner
directly
tout
to
de
the
suite
platform,
ce
you
QR
can
code
scan this
ou
QR code
tout
right
simplement
now, or you can just
www.mojaafrica.net.
click
Donc, la plateforme se présente comme ceci
www.mojalove.net.
et
So
pour
this is the
s'inscrire,
platform.
il suffit
In order
de
to
cliquer sur s'enregistrer
register, you
en
have to
haut. La
click
plateforme
and
existe en français et en
register. We
anglais.
have it in English and in French.
Donc, c'est trop facile de
So it's very
s'inscrire. Il
easy
suffit de
to
mettre l'adresse électronique, créer un mot de passe.
register. This
Et
is
puis, vous
the electronic
pouvez
address,
directement
and
vous
you also
identifier
put
et
your
commencer à
passwords. You
utiliser
can identify
Moja.
yourself, and you'll start using
Ici,
Moja. And
dans
here
le tableau de bord, vous
on
trouverez
the
vos
dashboard, you can
ressources, vos
find your
articles
resources,
et vos
articles,
événements. Donc,
and
vous pouvez
events.
ajouter des
Therefore, you
informations
can
quand vous
add
voulez et c'est très, très
information
facile à
as you wish,
utiliser.
and it's very
Donc, c'est juste
easy to use.
exemple. Ici,
This is just an example.
j'ai mis
Here, I
un
have put
article.
an
Donc,
article.
vous pouvez directement écrire
So
l'article
you can
dans la
write
description
an
et ajouter
article
un titre.
in
Après,
the
vous
description,
ajoutez
and
juste des
then
photos
you can add also a picture, and the article will be directly published on Moja. So you are part and parcel of Moja. You'll access a community of professionals and practitioners of adult learning and education. So you also have a lot of visibility, given that there are so many countries that are connected to Moja, and there will be an exchange of knowledge between many African countries. In order to register, we would like to recruit many organizations working in adult learning and education. So we wish to have your contacts. We're wishing also to have articles written by professionals and from academics talking about adult learning and education. And then we still hosting webinars. We're counting on you to participate and to share your experience. Therefore, you can follow us on Facebook. You can scan the QR code, or maybe you can search on Facebook our group of the practitioner of adult learning and education. We are also on LinkedIn. It's very easy to scan if you want to do it now, or maybe you can just type Moja Love on LinkedIn. We also have an account on YouTube.
Il y a bien sûr la
Of course,
plateforme Moja
we have the platform Moja
Voilà,
Africa
merci
Content.
pour votre
That's it.
attention.
Thank you so much for your attention.
Je ne sais pas si I don't know if David wants to add something else before ending this webinar.
Okay, not much.
Okay.
I think we're almost at the end of people's attention. 1.5 hours is a good time. After that, the concentration starts to go down. But just to say thank you very much to everybody, to our two presenters, Anna and Shoaib. I'm pronouncing your name terribly. Sorry. It's for your presentations. I think this is a very interesting area, and it's something that's just starting. I think we'll have a lot more. From Moja's side, I can tell you that we're going to, on the basis of these two studies, we're going to develop a module for social media use for ALE, which will be free training then online this year on Mojo's website. So please do follow this. We're really exploring and learning as we go. Finally, both of these studies will be uploaded onto the website Moja, which is you can find in the chat window there if you don't know already. And you can find these studies and you can download, and there's many more interesting findings or more detailed information about those findings that you can read. So thank you very much to everybody. Thank you, Umaima.